So as promised, this is part 2 of the weight loss series where I talk about how I lost over 8.5 pounds in just 6 days. And I did it without being hungry. I loved my life. I loved what I was eating. And it's absolutely possible for you to do it too. If you didn't watch my part 1, go ahead and watch that, because that's where I explain all the terms that I'm going to use in this video, like metabolic health, gut health, inflammation. I explain exactly what I mean by those words so that you understand why I made the food choices that I made. So as promised, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. I'm going to talk about all my exact weights you're going to see, exactly the foods that I ate and why. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, let's talk about my weight. So you can see by this chart that my weight goes straight down. There's not a day that my weight goes up. This is absolutely achievable for a short period of time. This is all the weight that I wanted to lose. I only had 8 pounds to lose. My normal weight is 119, 120. That's where I hang out at and where I feel best at naturally. So if you're losing more weight over a longer period of time, your line is not going to be exactly like this. You're going to lose weight, and then you might have a few days where you gain a little bit and then you lose more. So overall, it will be a downwards trend, but you're not going to be losing weight every single day. That is completely normal. If looking at a scale and seeing that your weight went up one day is going to cause you so much anxiety, there's no need to ever weigh yourself. I would have lost the same amount of weight had I weighed myself or not, because I was only focusing on how I felt. That was my measure of success. And I took my weight just for purposes of this video so that you guys can see it, and because I know that I can handle it mentally, emotionally. But if you can't, that's fine. Don't take your weight. It's okay. So now I'll talk a bit about the actual foods that I ate. If I went through and talked about the foods that I had every single day, like first day, 8 a.m. I had this, then I had this, it would be just the most boring video ever, because I had the same food every day. So what I'm going to do is I'll tell you everything that I had, and then I'll break it down into exactly why I had each food. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about my eating window. So I regularly advocate for people to have a 6-hour eating window and an 18-hour fasting window. If you are eating the right foods, there is no limit to how much you can eat. You can eat as much of it as you want. They are foods that are impossible to overeat, and they're so nutrient dense. That 6-hour eating window is actually going to be so easy to achieve, because these high quality foods are so satiating that the next time that you're hungry is probably going to be the next day. So whenever I'm eating these foods, I only have like 1 to 2 meals a day, and I eat anytime I'm hungry. I don't let myself starve. And you'll naturally find yourself with that small eating window. But the reason why this was extra beneficial during this time is because when I gained weight because I was eating a lot of poor quality carbs that I don't normally eat. So my body was probably becoming a little bit insulin resistant. So it was hurting my metabolic health. So it takes your body 18 to 24 hours to deplete its glucose storages. So in fasting like this, it was extra beneficial for me in this time, because it was promoting insulin sensitivity and kind of reversing that insulin resistance that might have happened during that week that I wasn't eating well. So now let's talk about exactly the foods that I ate. So I did not have any foods outside of my house. This is so important. You cannot eat well if you eat outside of your house, because everything is bathed in seed oils and has a bunch of additives that are just ruining your hormones. If you look at my channel, the very first video that I ever made was about a specific additive, phosphate additives, and that's just one out of like so many, and you see how problematic it can be. I break it down really granularly. It's a fun video. Don't touch anything outside. The seed oils, they promote inflammation. Make everything at home. I promise it's worth it. With my clients, I do all the work to make sure that it's possible for you, and I find, ways to work around your schedule, your location, whatever it is, we will figure it out. But the things that I had every single day, I had beef bone broth, beef of some sort, like ground beef or steak or braised beef, which I have a whole video about how I made the most incredible braised beef. It's like, you guys are so spoiled for having access to that recipe, let me tell you. It is so good. I also had sauerkraut, cheese, raw milk, fruit berries, honey, avocado, and beef liver. So now let's talk about why I chose each of those foods. If you spin the globe and you put your finger anywhere on the globe, the development of that people in their history, they always had the animal nose to tail. They had all parts of the animal. So similar in my diet, I make sure to have all parts of the animal. The bone broth lets me have all the vitamins from the bones. I make sure that it's simmered for at least 24 hours to extract the most vitamins and minerals possible. And I also include things like joints and things that have a lot of cartilage, like chicken feet. So I get a whole rainbow of vitamins and glycosaminoglycans, things that are going to support my joint health. And then it's also the best possible thing that you could have for your gut health. So whenever I was eating poorly, I knew that those carbs were feeding the bad guys. I talked about that in the first video. So I knew that this bone broth was going to be so supportive for my gut and restoring my gut health. Another thing I had was beef. Again, that's having the muscle meat, appreciating that. So many vitamins in there. Make sure that you're buying high quality beef, because the feed that the animal is eating, the quality of that feed is going to be preserved in the fat of that animal. And so if you're having grass-fed meat, you're going to have different vitamins in there, and like vitamin K and stuff. Pork is usually fed the worst quality feed, and that poor quality feed is retained in the fat, and then you're also technically being fed that crappy feed too whenever you have the pork. So that's why I have a lot of beef, because it's the meat that you're going to be able to find being fed the cleanest feed, because you can see right on there, grass-fed beef. You never see grass-fed pork. You never see it. Beef liver. I could make an entire video about beef liver. Oh my gosh. It's nature's multivitamin. It's like an absolute superfood. It's so nutrient dense. You only need this much every day to give your body everything that it needs. Animal organs were in ancient times like preserved for pregnant people and stuff like that. It was just so valued and appreciated, and nowadays it's so cheap because it doesn't taste incredible, but it is so necessary for your health. In the same way that you don't love to do the dishes and you don't love to do the laundry, you can choke down this little piece of beef liver because it is so good for you. So often we've turned into emotional eaters and emotional thinkers, and we've just thrown logic out the door. And I feel like part of being an adult is sometimes eating stuff that you don't adore, and this is one of those, and it is so worth it. You just have to suck it up. I don't know what to tell you. Or you can have pills like beef liver pills. Heart and Soil, owned by Paul Saladino, he makes really great beef organ pills, and that's what my parents take because they don't like the taste of liver, and that's fine. You can do that, but I think it's so necessary that you have animal organs in your diet. Another thing where if you spun the globe and you put your finger anywhere, in the development of that people, they had fermented foods. Fermentation is the art of letting something rot. And there's usually some type of thing that controls the growth of bad bacteria. So in sauerkraut, it's salt that doesn't let the bad bacteria grow. The longer something sits there, the more good bacteria grows and the more vitamins will be produced. So the more nutrient dense that thing is actually, the longer it sits there and ferments. Everything that you eat, you're either feeding the good guys or the bad guys in your gut. And I knew when I was having such high, poor quality carbs, I was feeding the bad guys so much. And sauerkraut is like putting good soldiers straight into your gut. So I had a full cup of sauerkraut every single day during this week. And I do think that that was one of the keys to my success. Another thing, the cheese. So cheese is like nature's protein bar. You have to understand that, and you have to know when to use it, because when you figure out how to use cheese in your diet as a protein bar, it's like unlocking a superpower. It's such a great tool to have like before you go to the grocery store, because as everybody knows, you shouldn't grocery shop when you're hungry. You're gonna buy all types of crap. Or I like to have it right before I'm gonna start cooking, because usually cooking takes me a while and I never wanna feel rushed when I'm cooking. And it helps me enjoy the process. If every time you're cooking, you're like starving and wanting to be hungry, and you're like, God, it'd be so much easier if I just ran a Chick-fil-A right now. Of course you're gonna hate cooking. But if you're nice and satiated before you start, you enjoy the process, the food is made with love, everybody can taste the difference. Or if I'm gonna go train, like go do exercise in an hour, and it's the morning and I don't want to have like a huge meal in me, but I can tell that if I don't eat now, I'm probably going to be hungry right in the middle of training. I'll have like a little bit of cheese an hour before, and again, it holds me over. It's like the best convenience little thing ever. Think about all the times that you would want a protein bar or a protein shake. It serves the exact same function, except it's completely natural, has no additives or preservatives in it. So many protein bars and protein shakes have seed oils, and even a lot of them have phosphates in there, the inorganic phosphates, which the very first video on my channel talks about inorganic phosphates specifically. It's the same thing that's in Cokes. So that's why I don't advocate for protein bars. Know that a lot of the softer cheeses are going to have more additives and stuff in there. And so I definitely advocate for people having some of the harder cheeses, and they're great for people that are also lactose sensitive, because the harder cheeses have really low lactose. A lot of people that are even lactose intolerant can still have these hard cheeses because the lactose is like near zero by the end, because that's what the bacteria is eating during the fermentation process, is the lactose. My favorite cheese to have is the Parmesan cheese sold at Trader Joe's. If you look on the back, it says that it's made from raw milk. So I love that one. That one's my favorite. Speaking of raw milk, I had raw milk often in this diet, and raw milk, that's another thing. I can make a whole video about raw milk. If you're afraid of raw milk, it's not your fault. Pasteurization should have been a short-term solution to the problem of dirty milk. So cows were being kept in these dirty conditions. Sick farmers were coughing into the milk, and that's how they were spreading disease, and just all kinds of things going on. There were all kinds of false narratives being spread. But instead of cleaning up the conditions of the cows and being like, this is gross, you know, like these cows are in such crap conditions. Instead of doing that, they were like, oh, we can make the milk as dirty as we want. We'll just cook the crap out of it in pasteurization so that it'll kill all the bacteria. But again, it kills the good and the bad. What you're left with is just an abomination. Raw milk is so powerful, and we absolutely have the technology to be treating our cows better now. There's no need to continue to have dirty milk that we just cook the bad crap out of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Raw milk is one of the best things that you can have for your immune system, and it's a great source of things like iodine and calcium, which everybody knows that iodine is supporting your thyroid hormone production. I could go on and on about raw milk. I have to stop. But trust me on this. Do it. In raw milk, it doesn't go bad the way that pasteurized milk goes and spoils and just becomes disgusting. Raw milk, it doesn't go bad. You can let it go past the expiration date. It'll just turn into kefir and then yogurt. It's a beautiful thing. I had avocado all the time also on this diet, so that was a super low toxin plant food. So a lot of people on the animal-based diet, they will still be having avocados all the time. It's an amazing source of all these healthy fats and potassium, magnesium, folate, all these good things. It's a no-brainer and it's delicious. The only carbs that I have typically are fruit, berries, and honey. So that goes hand in hand with the animal-based diet. So they also only advocate for fruit, berries, and honey. Those are so hard to overeat, and so it will really promote insulin sensitivity. The only fruits that I do not advocate for is no bananas and no apples. Evolutionarily, we have just botched those. They're so far from their natural state now. They're just giant sugar bombs. Any other fruits, berries, or honey, you are all set to go with. It's totally going to promote insulin sensitivity, and it's going to give you all the fiber that you need and all these beautiful vitamins. What I was really intentional about with this diet was making sure that your carb intake should match how much exercise that you do. And so to make sure I wasn't playing any kind of catch-up game where like at the end of the night I have a lot of carbs, then I'm like, oh, well, I'll just work it off tomorrow or whatever. I made sure that I did all my exercise in the morning and that I had the carbs right before my exercise to fuel my exercise, because specifically the workouts that I were doing were HIIT workouts, so high intensity interval training. I knew that I was training jiu-jitsu, and I knew that I have like 6-minute intense round, and then I have a 1-minute break, and then 6 minutes intense training, 1-minute break. So during that activity, my body is using carbs. I had the carbs 30 minutes before, again, in the form of fruit, berries, or honey, and I knew that that all those carbs were being put to good use. So like I was talking about briefly in the last video, I believe a huge issue in the standard American diet is insulin resistance, because most people are having poor quality carbs in excess. So if carbs are so scary and harmful and can cause all this metabolic distress, why even have carbs? Why not just cut them out and just be keto? Carbs are necessary. A lot of people on a keto diet, their labs will show that they have issues retaining electrolytes, which are so important for you. So carbs help you retain electrolytes, and they also support your thyroid hormone production, which is responsible for your metabolism. So your metabolism continuing to be high is not only going to make sure that you continue to lose weight if that's your goal, but your metabolic health is representative of how well your workers are able to function in general. So you want to make sure that your metabolism is kept up. And you can do that by making sure that you have a little bit of carbs. And also, having carbs make sure that your cortisol levels stay low, so make sure that your stress levels stay low. My husband, whenever he was cutting weight as a professional fighter, he was so intuitive to his carb intake. He super saw how it influenced his sleep. He got really poor quality sleep when he was in low carbs. And on his worst nights, he would go and have a few dates, and he was able to sleep so much better, and it made him so much more stress-free. So it really does have a really big impact on mental health and metabolism and hormone production. So I wanted to talk about this relatively close to the end, but I did fast for my first 24 hours. I know that that's going to be a little bit controversial because I said that I didn't go hungry, and I don't want you to think that I lost this weight by starving myself, because I really did eat my heart out. But let me tell you why I fasted for the first day. So Whenever you're having all these poor quality carbs in excess, like the standard American diet, and you're promoting all this insulin resistance, what you're doing is your body is on a glucose roller coaster. Every time your glucose spikes with those carbs, it will go and it will dip, and that is a craving. And then your body's asking for more carbs. It wants another quick fix. And then eventually you will crash again. So to get off this glucose roller coaster, you will have to be hungry, and that's your body throwing a tantrum. It's like if you had a kid and the kid was always used to getting everything it wants by throwing a tantrum, and then all of a sudden you crack down and you're like, okay, we need to change your behavior. We need to be able to communicate better with each other, and I need to be able to trust when you tell me that you need that toy, I need to actually know that you're serious, you know? So I'm not gonna be giving you stuff. We need to reevaluate your behavior, you know? Of course, the first time you do that, your body's gonna throw a big tantrum. But guess what? When my body gave me that first hunger response that first morning, I knew that it had so much excess energy. I just gained freaking 8 pounds in a week. So I was like, you're not gonna die anytime soon. So that first hunger response was my body throwing a tantrum. I was hungry for about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, probably from like 10 to 12 or 1. And once I ignored that hunger response, I just drank a ton of water that day to be able to flush my system out. My next hunger response came on day 2, well into the day. I didn't even wake up hungry. So my fast actually extended past 24 hours, well into the day. And I ate normally because I saw that that was an appropriate hunger response. I ate my heart out, ate so much. And from then on, I ate every time I was hungry. I never let myself be hungry. It's not okay to be hungry. But I knew that that hunger response was to be trusted from my body compared to the insulin resistant, just my body freaking out temporarily. So know the difference. So that fasting reset my body's behavior and allowed me to trust what it was telling me more. That's why that's significant. And lastly, I did do exercise every single day of this week. So I normally exercise 4 days a week, really intense exercise for like an hour and a half, which is training jujitsu. And during this time, the days that I didn't train, I went ahead and I did like the Peloton. So that was my exercise during that time. I was trying to flush stuff out of my system, and a lot of people talk about exercise being almost like your second heartbeat because it allows you to pump blood throughout your body. Some of our like lymphatic drainage and making sure that your blood circulates appropriately it gets pushed by your muscles contracting. So it is important to exercise. Is it absolutely mandatory to exercise to lose weight? No, it's not, because anybody will tell you most of losing weight is your diet if that's your goal. But for the health of your complete body, it is important to exercise. I hate to tell you. If you hate exercising, we're going to have to figure something out. I do mainly focus on diet, but exercise is important, and I do believe it's a huge reason why I was able to lose weight every single day at this rate. And whenever you're eating the right foods, the benefits from exercise, they show tenfold. I mean, you have just a few workouts and you can see and feel the difference like immediately whenever you're giving your body the right foods. It just allows that exercise experience to be so much more rewarding. The very last thing I want to say is that I had so much water, especially the first day. I also knew that water was going to flush out my system, and I also made sure to have electrolytes every day whenever I was exercising. And another key thing is do not eat close to your bedtime. The best time that you can stop eating, I would say, is like 2 hours before you go to sleep. That will ensure that you get really good sleep. So if I just threw a lot of information at you and you're like, oh my gosh, this is hard. How am I going to build my schedule? My life is like this, this, and this. I'm here to help you. You can go to my website, ieatrealfood.org, and I help my clients through the craziest schedules. I've had some crazy schedules, and I take all the stress off your hands. If it's absolutely mandatory that you go out and eat, I will find the exact restaurant for you, and I will tell you exactly what to order on the menu and exactly the modifications to ask for. You don't have to do all the hard work and mental gymnastics. This is like second nature to me, how to think about these things. So let me do all the hard work for you. Go to my website, and you can even book a quick 20-minute fridge tour with me where I just look at a quick view of your fridge and pantry, and I can already give you some pointers to help you out. Or if you give me more time to work with you, a longer session, then I can really go in depth. I have so much more to say on all these topics, and you could interrupt me at any point so that I can delve even deeper into something that specifically interests you. So that's all I have for today. I hope this has helped you a little bit, and thank you for watching.